I'm Anna, and I've put together a small tutorial on how to make some fairly realistic clouds, all within After Effects, and that's including the sky. Um, anyway, the what you see in front is hopefully what we'll be achieving. The bottom part of the screen is live video, which has been masked out, and then the created sky has been put in. Um, yeah, so look, this is actually my first tutorial, so um, I hope it's not a traumatic event for anyone who's watching. Uh, anyway, I'll get on with it and we'll see how it works out. Okay, so now what we'll do is we'll start off with the new composition. So, okay, right click, new composition. Um, yeah, you could sort of have it whatever resolution you like, but let's just go here, PAL widescreen. Okay. So, what I've done, I actually here, I wanted to sample the color of the sky to get a fairly realistic. So we're not actually going to use this, but this is just to get our colors to see, because it's not, even though it's blue, there's like a gradient that runs through it. So I'm just going to use this as my guide for the moment. So right click in this panel here and new solid. Make comp size. The color at this stage isn't important. So we've now created a solid, and what we need to do now is create like a gradient, but in After Effects they call it a ramp. So we type here in the effects and presets column, we put ramp. So a ramp appears. Click on it, drag it across, and pop it in there. So as you can see, by default, it becomes a black and white gradient. So what we need to do is to get our color picker here, go to this part, choose the top color. Now the end color of the ramp will be obviously the bottom, so we click that. So now we've created our ramp. So what we need to do is hide this bottom layer. In fact, you could probably even delete it just so it doesn't confuse the situation. So we have our sky. So next we click in this panel here again and put new solid. So we're creating another solid. Color again is irrelevant. So again, here in the effects and presets, we write fractal noise. We bring that across to here. Now, fractal noise is like clouds in Photoshop, but a zillion times more versatile. At the moment, it's just nothing's happening because it just looks pretty boring. So the first thing I want to do is create it, make it into put the blending mode as screen. Right, so straight away we can see something starting to form here. So we go at the top here where it says fractal type, we go to smeary. So that gives us something different. Then we go to spline. So we can up the contrast Right. Yeah, we can play with that later, but I think that for the moment that probably looks okay. So what we need to do, because when you look at a sky, there's obviously a perspective involved. So as it's closer to the horizon, the clouds are smaller, and further away from the horizon, the clouds are larger. So we need to then alter this to make it, you know, appear more realistic. So we shall write here corner pin. So this is a distortion tool that is in After Effects. So we drag that onto our layer here, and highlight it, click it and highlight it. So you'll see here there's 4 red dots, okay? So grab this one, bring it to about here. Grab this one, bring it to about there. Now grab the top one and bring it out, and grab this one and bring it out. Okay, so now we've sort of created a basic perspective shape. So, so what we need to do is actually stretch it out a little bit now. Okay, so grab this handle here. See, this is enlarged. It enlarges it, and reduces it and enlarges it. So we can keep going, and okay, so now we have our basic clouds. So what we want to do is make this like a simulated time lapse. So we need to create some movement, not only sort of like the left to right, or left to right movement, or right to left. We need to actually create a little bit of turbulence within the clouds. So what we need to do is we go to here, evolution, right? So you hover your mouse over that. At the same time, click Alt, and then click the evolution. And you'll see down here, a little window opens up. Delete what is in there, right? So that's gone. And we're going to create what they call an expression. Now, an expression is an animation based on keyframes, but it just takes away, it just cuts the time, just, you know, creating individual keyframes sort of along the way. This does it for us automatically, because we will tell it that we want the time, we want the evolution to be time, then this little asterisk here, which is on top of the 8, and let's say 60. Okay, now that might be a bit fast, but we can go back and change that. So let's see now how this takes us. Right, now see, I think that is a bit too fast. So we've actually created now some turbulence within the sky. And they're all random movements. So that is definitely too fast. So, okay, let's go back. So double click, or just click on this line again, and let's make it now 20. Okay, let's see how that goes. So now we have a more realistic sort of movement happening within the clouds. Right, it is torrential outside. The rain is absolutely torrential. I can barely hear myself think. Okay. So, so what we'll do now, we'll actually we shall bring it across to say here. Okay, so just basically grab your layer and drag it. Now close this and open up the transform section. Click on position, bring the head across to the end and move it slightly, say about there. So let's see now how this is going to look. So we want it to fit up to 100%. Now, as I said before, I generally have things set at half resolution when I'm doing it because it just takes forever to render. So by half gives you a fairly decent view, but it doesn't take all day to render out. So now let's press play and see how this sky is looking. Okay, it's not too bad. I think we could probably thin the clouds out a little bit or even fatten them up, but I'll show you how to do that. Okay, so that is basically our clouds. So let's say now we want less cloud. Grab the contrast and we go up. And just keep going up until you reach a stage where you feel, yeah, that's okay. And you can get the brightness and bring that down, right? So you have minimal sort of clouds. And it's just a case of playing around and seeing what you want to, what kind of day you want to achieve. So, and don't be frightened to just try different things. And really, the really, truly most important thing of all times is save. Constantly save. Because After Effects has a nasty habit of crashing. So there we have it. This is our basic sky. I hope you've enjoyed it and I hope you've learnt something maybe and I hope it hasn't been too difficult or boring. Okay, so in the last bit I showed you how to make the cloud. So now I want to show you how to incorporate that within a live video. So what we're going to do is select both these layers and right click on one of them and see down here it says pre-compose. So basically we're combining these layers, so then we can just use them as one piece of footage rather than two. So pre-compose, put here clouds, and they are now one layer, so to speak. So what we can do is grab this control, bring it up to about half and drag the sky up. Here I have some footage of some waves, and I didn't really like the sky, so this is it here. So what we need to do is actually transform transform fit to comp, right? So that brings it to exactly this right size. So the sky here is pretty, ordinary. So what I want to do is, what we need to do is grab the waves layer and put it beneath the clouds. Okay, so there's a bit of a misalignment here, but that's all right, we can fix that. So select the clouds label and bring that down a little bit until it matches the horizon. Now there seems to be like a slight headland here on the right, and that's not a problem because we can mask that out. So up here is the wonderful pen tool, which I'm sure you'll love using, but it really is great. So select that pen tool. So what we need to do is maybe even reduce the opacity a little bit so we can see what we're doing. And come here and just basically bring in that headland. Right, so okay, so the edge, we can hide the mask. Now the edge of that seems okay. If it appeared to be a little bit harsh, what we can do is go to masks, then press F, and that brings up the feather option, and that sort of basically smooths out the edges. So let's bring it up a few pixels and see. Yeah, that might be all right. So let's now press play and see what we've ended up with. And of course it takes forever to render. So that is combining a created sky with live video. Now I'm thinking it looks pretty realistic. You could probably add some color correction to it, but anyway, look, I think we'll leave that. But yeah, so this is the final result. So there you have it. Thank you for listening and watching, and I hope you've enjoyed it.